If you've been playing for years, but your hands still won't do what your brain tells them to do, this is the lesson that fixes that. I've pulled together every one of my best hand technique trainings into this one video. So instead of hunting around trying to piece together bits and pieces, you've got the whole thing right here in one place. Now here's how I want you to use it. Treat this video like a course. As you go through, pause the video, pick up your sticks, and actually work through each technique before you move on. Leave a comment and let me know how it's going, and maybe even spend a few days studying one section at a time and practicing it. Come back tomorrow and keep working through it. A little bit each day in the right order, and you'll feel your hands start to loosen up and open up fast. Oh, and stick around because I'm going to show you something called open close technique that'll let you play cleaner, faster doubles with half the effort. Do your drumsticks try to escape your hands mid-gig? Ever catch yourself gripping your sticks like they owe you money? Do your hands feel like they're on fire by the end of your practice? I've helped both brand new drummers and touring Nashville pros fix their funky grips, and it always comes down to the same few mistakes. So in this video, I'll walk you step by step through holding your sticks so you can play faster, hit harder, and actually enjoy drumming without your hands screaming for mercy. Let's start with posture. The first step to all of this is to get our posture comfortable and our arms as relaxed as possible. Set aside your sticks, set aside your drums, your drum set, your practice pad, set it off to the side a little. That'll do. Okay, I want you to begin by sitting up, relaxed, shoulders back, spine straight in your chair or drum throne. So once you're sitting up straight, I want you to shake your arms out like this. Get them as loose, and I like to say jiggly as possible. And I want you to let them drop. When you're here, I want you to feel that your entire upper arm, lower arm, forearm, hands, fingers, all of this stuff is completely relaxed. Pretend that it's just jello, as loose as possible. Shake it about. And I want you to just let them drop at your side. Both hands. Stay here for a moment and feel what this feels like, and look down at your hands and arms and look down at your body. Pay attention to this feeling, because this is the feeling you want to be able to call upon as we move to the next steps. This feeling of total relaxation. I probably look ridiculous right now as I'm talking to you, but this is exactly what we want. Just total loose, relaxed limbs. Next step is to bend your elbows 90 degrees. Make sure your arms are completely straight down, and then bend your elbows forward so they're parallel with the floor. You'll also notice that I am dangling my wrist. So I haven't straightened it yet. So this is step 3, is to straighten the wrist, and I want you to let it drop again. Straighten, drop. Because we want to be deeply aware of how much relaxation or tension we are adding to every mechanic that we're going to work with. Now that you've done that a couple times, go ahead and straighten your wrist out. And let's do the same thing with the fingers. So our elbow is 90 degrees. Our elbow is also at our side. We're not holding it back, we're not holding it forward, and we're not holding it out like this. So it's dropped like that. I want you to then straighten your fingers out and then let them drop. Straighten, drop. Straighten, drop. You can hold your arm up like this now. When you have your fingers nice and relaxed and loose, that natural position is going to be very close to how you want to hold the stick. Because what we're aiming for with all of the technique fundamentals we're covering today is to be as relaxed as possible, as much as possible, with every part of our body as possible, while still executing what we want to execute on the drums. So that means our grip should barely change from this total relaxed state. Oh, and real quick, you can grab the entire technique checklist we're covering totally free, so grab it below if you want to lock in perfect technique for good. So let's pick up a stick, hold out your dominant hand, nice and relaxed. We're going to start by placing our thumb and index finger on the fulcrum point of the stick. Now, where that is along the stick is very important, but we're going to cover that a little bit later. For now, just know that it's approximately a third of the way up the stick from the butt end. That's where we're going to put our thumb and index finger. So from this position, we want the entire pad of our thumb along the stick. And then our index finger, we want the DIP joint, which is this last knuckle. We want the side of it to be at the same point opposite our thumb. The next step is to place the back of the stick against the fleshy part of your palm. Now, we're looking to place this in the middle of the fleshy part of your palm. The stick should not touch the bony part here, and should also not touch this area out here. We want it right in the middle. Not here, not out here, in the middle. After that, go ahead and gently wrap your back fingers around the stick. Make sure that the pads of all your fingers are on the stick, the exception being your index finger. That will be the side of the DIP joint for your index finger that's in contact with the stick at the focal point, about the same height as your thumb. You should notice a gap between your index finger and your thumb. This is something really important to remember. This gap, you can just stick a finger in there. This gap is the most important thing to keep in mind while you're playing and practicing and developing these fundamentals. You want to make sure that gap is always there. And there are a couple of common mistakes that you want to be aware of coming up. Whenever you go to practice, whenever you go to play, whenever you're working on technique, working on different stroke types, whether that is Moeller stroke, French grip rebound, whether it's doubles, open close, all these techniques that you should learn. Whenever you're practicing or playing, it's really important, especially in the beginning, especially right now, to go through what I like to call the stick grip checklist. The stick grip checklist is a set of parameters to check off, kind of like a pre-flight checklist on an airline, before a plane takes off at the airport. I don't even know much about planes, but they check everything about the plane to make sure it's safe, make sure it's set up optimally for a safe flight before they take off. And so that's the same idea here. We want to make sure that we have our technique nice and relaxed and avoid a bunch of mistakes that can hold us back before we ever play a note. So before you play a note, after you play a note, these are the times to use the stick grip checklist. Think of it as a pre-flight and a post-flight checklist. Here are a couple of mistakes that you want to make sure you're not making before you play, while you play, after you play. Number one is closing the gap. So instead of keeping this gap open, some drummers close the gap. And if you try it right now with me, you should immediately feel a lot more tension in your forearm. And then if you open that gap back up, you're going to feel it all relax. So closing the gap is the first mistake you want to make sure you never do. Always keep that gap open, always keep it nice and relaxed. I want you to memorize everything we're going over here, so I made a PDF of all these grip fixes so you don't forget a single detail. Link is below if you want to grab it. Number two is putting the index finger on top of the stick. Now, there's a couple of special cases where you might want to do something called, I think, a stick shot, where you bury the stick into the drum head for special effect, but this is probably something you're rarely going to use. So don't even think about that right now, and keep your index finger on the side of the stick, not on top. Make sure you see a little bit of your index finger dangling below the stick. Number three, don't let your thumb slip off the stick. I want you to strive to keep the entire pad of your thumb in contact with the stick. That's going to give you the most control. If your thumb slips off, then you start losing control and you compensate by gripping the stick tighter in other places. And again, that causes pain, that causes tension, and over a long period of time, it causes permanent injury. So we want to avoid all these things by maintaining contact for control, but staying relaxed with our grip and making sure that gap is always there. It's important to remember that you can't force progress by doing more of the wrong method. If you've been making these mistakes or any of the rest we're going to be talking about in this video, the number one thing you should do is fix them. Watch this video 10 times if you have to, and really focus on getting each step under your belt until it's natural and automatic to not make these mistakes. Because doing more of the same mistakes only makes things worse. Bad habits break drummers. Mistake number four is when the stick rotates out this way in your palm. It creates a lot of difficulty in manipulating the stick, and the arc and way you have to use the rest of your arm and body can contort in different ways and make it really difficult to control everything. So if you hold the stick out here, correct that to the middle of the fleshy part of the palm, right there. Mistake number 5, and this might be second most important in my book. That is when you let your back fingers off the stick. If your back fingers are coming off the stick and not in contact back here, then this is one of the most important things for you to fix and work on in terms of the stick grip checklist, that pre-flight, post-flight checklist. Make sure before you go to play a note that your back fingers are touching. Make sure during the path of the stick and the motion, your back fingers are touching, and make sure when you recover with that rebound or whatever the stroke type happens to be, make sure your back fingers are again on the stick, not off like this. This is really important to get down now, because when you're learning the techniques for double strokes, if your back fingers aren't able to move and stay with the stick, this is really gonna hold you back. Keep these ideas in mind as you practice these next steps, and remember them throughout all the techniques that I'm going to teach you. Right now, we're gonna start with getting a grip on, well, what you need to know about grip. Now, there are a number of different grips you can use on the drums, including German grip, American grip, French grip, and others, and it's important to know these, but today we're going to focus on German grip. Getting these first steps is essential to playing proper Moeller technique and open-close technique. And you'll need both in order to play around the drum set effortlessly with power, speed, and most importantly, control. When you're playing German grip, after you're holding the stick, go ahead and get back to our playing position of sitting straight up, arms relaxed, elbows bent 90 degrees, and then you're holding the stick with the wrist straight. When you're at this point, you can drop your wrist a little bit onto the pad. And German grip specifically is when the back of your hand is pointing up towards the ceiling. You're going to notice that your thumbs are to the side and your back fingers are under the stick. With German grip, the main mechanic you're going to be using is the hinge of your wrist. So you're going to use your wrist as the primary driver of this force for now. There's more to it later. But for now, we want to focus on wrist strokes, and that means using only your wrist and not your elbow. In fact, using your elbow at this point is mistake number 6. I want you to avoid, whenever possible, playing from your elbow with your wrist locked. For the most part, even when we start to engage the elbow later down the line, you're still using your wrists and your fingers more than the elbow is being used. So make sure for now you're not playing like this. You want to isolate and use just your wrist. The trick to this is as you go to play and you're resting the tip of the stick on the drummer pad, take a finger or 2 fingers or your whole hand and place it above your arm, touching right below the wrist, and slowly, very slowly, move your wrist up and down. This way you can make sure that you're gently reminding yourself to isolate and just use this mechanic. And as I mentioned before, make sure you're watching your grip and using the stick grip checklist, making sure the gap is there, making sure your thumb is on, the back fingers are on, everything we already covered. At this point, you can experiment with rotating your forearm and wrist a little bit to find the optimal angle for moving the stick up and down comfortably. We want to find the path that is the most natural, relaxed, and without tension for your body. Everybody's body, hands, arms, everything is a little bit different. It's all relative and it's all a little bit different for everybody, but the most important parameters are stick grip checklist and making sure that you feel relaxed and you feel at ease and there's no tension in your movements, there's no strain. If you feel pain in the way that you're moving back a little bit with your wrist, something's not right and we want to change and alter that gently, slowly, and experiment to find the correct angle of everything that works for your body. Keep going back to this step to lock in the muscle memory of these wrist movements. The number one thing most drummers aren't taught is A, how critical it is to understand muscle memory, and B, exactly how to take advantage of our muscle memory to get the most out of our practice. The more you learn to use your muscle memory to its fullest, knowing the right techniques like this and how to practice them correctly, and knowing the right way to program these techniques into your subconscious, the faster and further ahead you're going to leap. Rebound strokes are not just important on their own, they're also an essential step towards learning tap strokes, control strokes, Moeller technique, open close technique, and in general, getting a great sound out of your drums and cymbals. You'll use rebound strokes for so much, and I'll share more about that in a little bit. You'll play the same things you play, but faster, more fluidly, and with less effort when you master rebound strokes. Rebound strokes build off of the wrist strokes we started to learn earlier. Rebound is also a big part of French grip finger strokes, and I want you to learn that soon. But first, let's continue focusing on the German grip version, and then you'll learn how to get the dynamics under complete control. What that means is we're gonna start again with German grip. That's back of the hand up, thumb to the side, and using wrists only, get it all the way up to a comfortable position. Don't wrench your wrist really far back. If you feel that tension, you've gone too far. For me, this is approximately 45 degrees. If this is 90, it feels a little much. I just do 45 when I'm practicing these wrist-only rebound strokes. There's other ways to get the stick higher and keep that comfortable, but we want to master this version first. So when you bring your wrist back, and for me that's about 45 degrees, I want you to hold it here as your new starting position. And then slowly bring the stick down so that the tip of the stick touches the pad. There's a very low angle for the stick. It's not flat against the pad, but just a little bit raised from there. Once you're in contact with the pad, make sure again, stick grip checklist. Watch for the gap, feel the back fingers, make sure the thumb isn't slipping off. Make sure your hand is relaxed and not gripping the stick tightly. Then slowly bring the wrist back up to its starting position. Going back to the subject of muscle memory, it's so important to do this slowly a whole bunch of times to make sure you're doing it with these correct parameters in mind and you're doing it in a way that doesn't hurt your body. As long as you're staying relaxed and you don't feel pain and you're coming up, straight up with the stick, and you have all the previous mistakes fixed, just do it slow a bunch of times so that you memorize that feeling. You know what it feels like. You know what to look for as you begin to speed this up. So one more time, start high, go slowly down, come back up. Nice and slow a couple of times. Here's where we actually finally get to have some fun today. And what that means is we're gonna play a note that you can actually hear. And that means, again, we're gonna do the same thing. We're starting high, 45 degrees, but we're gonna come down fast. Here's the tricky part. When you come down fast with your wrist, the stick with a rubber pad or a high-tuned snare drum, yes, some pads are less bouncy. I suggest you get a bouncy traditional rubber pad to learn this technique and really learn to utilize this rebound as much as possible. When you impact that pad or drum or cymbal, the stick wants to bounce back up. The tricky part is letting it. The secret to playing effortlessly is letting the stick do the work. It's going to come back up for you. It's going to bounce right back up. What you're looking for is when your wrist comes down fast with force. When your wrist comes down, you want to relax totally at that instant. What that looks like is straight wrist, drop it. This is the feeling that you already practiced earlier of just relaxing your wrist, letting it go limp. You want to unlock that wrist the moment the stick impacts the pad. So you're coming down and relaxing. As a quick example, if I practice the proper rebound stroke technique without rebound, if I just play on my leg, it doesn't come up. What I'm doing is I'm coming down with force, using my muscles to come down. You do this too many times, it's gonna hurt, but that's besides the point. At this point, loose, absolutely loose and limp. It doesn't come up. So what we're learning to do when we're utilizing rebound to its fullest is we're learning to not pick the stick up every single time. So we come down only, it bounces back up. We don't have to do the work of lifting our wrists back. It's really nice. On the pad, it looks like this. What a lot of drummers find is that they're not relaxing their hands enough during the rebound. If you have a little bit of tension in your wrist after the impact, the stick wants to bounce up, but you are preventing that a little bit, and that can manifest in a couple of different ways. Most often, there's a little bit of a lilt where it kind of like jerks back up, like that. Instead of it just kind of snaps up if you're totally relaxed. Another important point is that you want to come down fast enough to actually get enough bounce. If you just come down that much, it doesn't really bounce much. So give it some force, but totally relax at the end. And get the action of the wrist moving down and then loosening up in a microsecond is something that will take a little bit to figure out. But once it happens, even just once, you know it. When that stick comes back right up, there's no question, you're gonna feel it after a little bit of experimentation. If at this point the stick comes off your palm a little bit, that's okay during the rebound strokes. But make sure your back fingers, the pads of your fingers, stay on the stick. Ideally, your goal should be to have the stick start in the same place and bounce back up to that exact same position. We're gonna come back to that in a moment. Spend a lot of time locking in this feeling of the stick coming back on its own and carrying your hand, carrying your wrist, carrying your hand, and your wrist comes up with it. Don't rush this step. It should feel like you're bouncing a ball or dribbling a basketball. And that brings us to our first actual exercise that we're gonna cover today. It's a very simple exercise, but once you've mastered one rebound stroke at a time, we wanna start to put that into a little bit of a routine so you're building up even stronger muscle memory and connections to getting this right every time. The exercise is super simple. Put on a metronome at a moderate to slow tempo. We're gonna play 8 strokes with one hand and then alternate to the other and go back and forth. If you make sure one stroke at a time is perfect before you start to do this in sequence 8 each hand, then over a couple of days of practice, you're gonna feel way more confident and in control over the stick and how it rebounds and how you fit into that picture. While you're practicing this, mistake number 7 is something you really wanna look out for, and that is holding your elbows out. Make sure while you're practicing this that your elbows are dropped and very relaxed at your side. That has to do with how your shoulder is holding or not holding your arm out. So make sure to double check that and let them drop. Not this, not even a little bit, not even this much. Let them drop. You're gonna feel a lot more relaxation. You're gonna feel a lot more at ease while you practice this. Now, another common mistake here is lifting up before each rebound stroke as you're doing this exercise. But I want to give you a solution to this, and it's going to make a big difference in your control and consistency with your strokes. Quick heads up before we keep going. If you're watching this soon enough, I've got a live technique workshop coming up on Zoom where I actually watch your hands and give you feedback in real time. Spots fill up, so grab yours before the class fills. Links below. Have you ever wondered why your hands just won't get faster no matter how much you practice? Most drummers are gripping their sticks totally wrong. I was too, and it was killing my speed and technique. So I'm going to show you the #1 mistake drummers make in their grip and give you the best exercise to fix it to finally unlock fast, precise playing for good. So there are 3 main areas that we're going to look at to correct your grip in just a couple of minutes. And if you want every single digit, every single area of your grip completely fixed and in place so you don't have to think about it again, I'll put a link below to my free technique guide so you can finally master the basics for good. So the first thing we're going to fix here is what I call the gap. Now the gap, very simply, is what you need to have at all times when you are, well, holding your sticks. It's this space in between your thumb and index finger right here. I want you to grab your sticks right now. I want you to hold your sticks. I want you to hold them tight. Close that gap. Wrap your index finger around. Now, what do you feel? You feel all this tension here in your forearm. I want you to open that gap up, loosen up. The gap should be there. You should be able to just poke your finger right in there, right? You can feel that tension completely release when you open the gap. I would do that a couple times. Close the gap, feel that tension, open the gap, close the gap, open the gap. It really helps to simply do that by itself and get to know what that feels like. So part number 2 is very simple. It's got a hard to pronounce name. This is the hypothenar eminence. You need to know where the stick goes at the back of your palm here. So this group of muscles here called the hypothenar eminence, and you need the stick to go basically exactly in the middle of your hypothenar eminence, which is this whole fleshy bit of your palm. So not at this crease over here, not at this bone, but in the middle. I see a lot of people that hold the stick here and the stick gets in their way, or they hold it out here and they don't have control. It's kind of floppy. So it needs to be right in the middle. So we have the gap, we have the hypothenar eminence. Simple as that. By the way, once you get this stuff, we're going to go through an exercise that's going to help you lock this in for good in just a minute. Part 3, and this might be, out of all of these grip mistakes, this might be the biggest one. It's about fixing your back fingers so they're doing the correct thing and not holding you back. So the big mistake that I see is that people are playing like this. The back fingers are off and the stick wobbles back here. If your back fingers aren't on the stick, what happens for pretty much everybody when those back fingers are off? The stick has a lot of play. It jiggles around and automatically, without even thinking about it, you tighten up here. You start having tension. You get carpal tunnel syndrome. In 10 years, you need surgery. It's a mess. So you need to make sure those back fingers stay on the stick. So the default position is going to be index finger and thumb. We skipped this, but you want the distal interphalangeal joint, the DIP joint, this last crease of your index finger to be on the stick across from your thumb in the middle of the hypothenar eminence. Right in the middle of that palm, not out here, not here. Triple check this stuff. And then the back fingers need to stay on the stick. Don't let them off like so. Keep them on the stick. You can slide your fingers up and down a little bit. I prefer a little bit more up here where my thumb is actually in the middle of my middle finger and index, but you don't have to do that. You can keep it here. You can slide it up a little. You should play with that and see what works for your hands. But those are the key things. If you're going to open up the stick, like for instance, when I'm playing this open close technique, whenever I'm doing that or I'm playing doubles, with the same technique, the stick stays with my back fingers. See that? So it stays with them. It never comes off and I'm never playing like this. As soon as the stick is like jiggling in your hand, the movements are wobbly, which means the timing is sloppy and inconsistent. So you need to like really work on that. If you can't have speed, if your technique is in order, and you can't have speed if your timing is sloppy. Those are the 3 things. And don't forget to grab that free technique guide. It's going to go over this even more depth, but let's give you that exercise. Just doing this 10 minutes a day is going to dramatically increase your speed and help lock in this grip and fix your technique. So very simply, we're going to play eighth notes for 1 measure, and it's just going to be your right hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just like that. Second measure, you're going to play 16th notes. We're going to play single strokes, but leading with the opposite hand. So left, right, left, right. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4. That's going to land you on your left hand. 4 E and a left hand. So that left hand is now going to play. The third measure is just eighth notes with your left hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And final measure, right lead singles, 16th notes, right, left, 4 times. That's a full measure. 1 E and a 2 E and a. You loop that around to the first measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the simplest exercise. It forces you to use your right hand just as much as your left to lead with both of them, get comfortable with both. The key thing to really master this is, for one, just isolate just the eighth notes. We can skip the full measure for the full exercise for a second and just do 8 with the right, 8 with the left, repeat it, and make sure you have all these parameters in mind. You keep the gap, you keep the stick in the middle of the palm, and you keep the back fingers on the stick. So you should check after every note before you do the full exercise like this. Like poke your head down there and check all this stuff and make sure it's there. Do a couple and look away, look back. Is it still in place? If the gap closes, you should not be doing this exercise. Watch the full technique video that I'll link below. But when you have that in place, here's the exercise. You can do it right along with me. We're going to do this at 60 BPM. You can do it right along with me. And here we go. Real quick, if you want me to look at your technique and help, I run live workshops on Zoom. But if you're seeing this, sign up before the next one's full, because once it's full, well, yeah, it's full. Links below. Most drummers are working way too hard and they still can't play what they hear in their head. I definitely was, until a single technique completely transformed my playing, making speed and power effortless and reliable while playing thousands of shows. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can use this simple approach to instantly transform your drumming forever. So for this technique, we're going to be learning some 3, 4, and 6 note phrases, but I'm literally going to start you off with the technique you need for note 1 before we work on the full sequence. More on that later. So what I want you to do is get ready to play, sticks on the pad, but put one stick down. We're just gonna focus on a single hand for now. Now, with you ready to play this note, we're gonna do something a little bit different than you might for a lot of normal notes. We're gonna go really slow, and I call this Tai Chi drumming. And trust me on this, when you work on your movements and technique at Tai Chi speeds, it really pays off. So from this position, I want you to bring your elbow out like so, and I want you to bring it out some more, and keep bringing it up until your whole arm is up in the air. At this point, you want to check your grip. You want to make sure that all your back fingers are on the stick. You want to make sure that the gap is there in between your thumb and index finger. Your thumb is all the way on the stick, and that you're nice and loose and relaxed. This is the start and the full range of a Moeller whipping stroke that is going to allow you to play with tons of speed and power with almost no effort. But we got to do the full range first, which takes a little bit more. Once we're here, we're basically going to bring our arm back to playing position and play a note, but you got to do it really slow to get the order and sequence all really correct, or this won't work. So the elbow starts to come down first, and that's really crucial. So as the elbow comes down, you can see that I kind of am hanging here with my wrist dangling. Elbow continues to come down. At this point, bring your wrist back as your elbow continues to come in. So your stick is up in the air, and then the stick comes down, hits the drum after your elbow reaches your side. Now, if you're working on this at any point and you're finding that you have too much tension in your hands and your body, or you're finding that you can't get your elbows to do what you want them to do, then you need to go check out my free technique guide. I'll put the link down below for you, so go check that out. What's really important about this technique is that when you do this, the elbow is first before the note happens, and you're coming back to a resting position. So make sure that your resting position is not with your elbows out like this, which is going to introduce a lot more fatigue and tension throughout your body. You want to be totally dropped, and you can even practice that. Bring your elbow out, let it drop, out, drop it. Okay, that's a little hint of something we're going to be doing later. So let's do the full range again. Elbow comes all the way up, and then you're dangling here. You check for the gap, you check that your back fingers are on the stick, and then very slowly, I want you to, this is really important, watch me do it first, and then you look down and watch yourself do it. Okay, so watch me. So that's the full sequence. I want you to do it, just pause the video and do it yourself good 5 or 10 times, really slow before we keep going. So after that, we're gonna do the same thing, but just do it a little bit faster. So you wanna gradually work up the speed. So this is already faster, but it's slow motion. You're actually not going to be playing this way, right? One important factor is that when we do get this up to speed, you're not going to bring your hand back. It's going to whip back by itself. So when you're going slow, you actually literally have to bring the stick back in this motion to create this wave-like thing happening with your arm, right? But when you're playing fast, you're literally going to whip it, and your hand's just going to be limp and floppy, like your wrist. And that's going to whip back and create all the speed and power and volume that you want. So when I'm doing this, it's so easy to do. Let me go from a little bit of a slower speed to the actual whip. It's so easy to play these loud notes because all I'm really doing without a stick, just flopping my hand like that. That's literally all it takes. And if you can flop your hand on your leg or on a table like this, you're driving it with your elbow, and all you're basically doing is this much work. It's pretty fantastic because it means you can play strong and loud all over the drums. You can drive a full band. You can play a huge show for 2 hours straight and not get tired because you're mostly just doing this. So I want your goal to become, I want this for you. I want you to become the laziest drummer possible when it comes to physical effort. You should be striving to make it so that every note you play, you're using the least amount of effort necessary to execute that note. So after you've gone from really slow to faster, and we're still keeping it pretty big,
you're going to start to feel that whipping stroke, which is the accent note of the whole like Moeller sequence. Then you want to make sure that the range of motion you're putting your arm through gets a little bit smaller. So we're going to start to minimize this range of motion. Super crucial you do it big first so that it's all there for you, big and small, because the small movements are contained within that. But realistically, when you're actually playing this, you're going to be playing a lot smaller in terms of what the strokes that you're playing. When I'm playing around the kit, it's usually somewhere around here. Not doing a ton of elbow out and in, just a little bit. So it comes out here and then it starts to come down. And the rest kind of just follows through and flops through like that. Really, it's super useful to just do this without a stick too. You can really feel how you can flop your hand around. I really recommend you do that. And once you're doing this, you're in business. Now, there's a number of ways you can go from here, but let's talk about the 3-note sequence. There's 2 different techniques you can use for this 3-note sequence. We're going to talk about the wrist strokes first and the finger stroke version later. I'm going to show you what you need. So for the wrist strokes, here's the trick. After you play the 1 whipping stroke, I'm going to play 2 taps. Just wrist taps. That's it. Simple as that. Whipping stroke, tap, tap. And let's do it a little bit slower. Whip and tap and tap and. Okay. Once we're in that place, I want you to then, this is really cool, start bringing your elbow out during the 2 taps. Check this out. Okay, so now I'm already in position for another whipping stroke. I've already lifted up during the tap strokes. Okay. Now, the way to practice this sequence is I would do a 4-beat sequence with a rest. That's the next step, which means whip, tap, tap, rest, like so. Whip, tap, tap, rest, whip, tap, tap, rest. And one thing you want to watch out for is that you don't do tap, tap, and move your elbow out in stages. You want it to move smoothly out because that's what's actually going to be happening. You need to be able to tap while your elbow is lifting up and it not mess with your timing, or your timing doesn't mess with your elbow. So whip, tap it, tap with that lift that's kind of halted like that. Try to avoid that. You want to look down and fix this. Make sure it's happening correctly. Make sure that's smooth like this. Okay. You can even practice just doing a whole bunch of taps and bring your elbow out and in, just to feel that they can start to become more independent, right? So we have whip, tap, tap, rest. And the next thing about this is to practice this a whole bunch. Rest and whip, tap, tap, rest and whip. Now the important thing here, another mistake to look out for, and whip, tap, tap, is that your elbow doesn't come down at the same time as your stick. Like that. You don't want to be like scooping ice cream. I don't know why I always think of that analogy, but that's what I see when I see people do this and the stroke comes down together. It looks like someone's scooping ice cream. So you want to make sure the elbow drops first, and it's almost like a chicken dance kind of thing. So drop that elbow, and the rest follows through afterwards. And the timing that starts to feel like, and this is not precise because we're not actually putting the elbow movement strictly in time, but if I had to, I'd think of it as happening on the and before the accent, the and before the 1 in this case. So 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So elbow happens before. So I like to do it like slightly faster. Check this out and then do it with me when you're ready. I'll say in instead of and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 in 1, 2, 3, 4 in 1, 2, 3, 4 in 1, like so. When you have that, here's the next step. Check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4 in 1, 2, 3, 4 in 1. Now watch what we're going to do next. 3 and 1, 2, 3 in 1, 2, 3 in 1. So we're no longer having that rest on 4, and it becomes a continuous sequence of notes. 1, 2, 3, 1. And this is our first sequence, 3 notes. We have a couple more to do. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in 1, 2, 3, 1. And then what you can do is start to feel that momentum if we go a little bit faster. Check this out. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you can look and see that my hands are kind of whipping, flopping, has this wave motion that's really being put there by the elbow coming in. That's what drives the whole thing. That's really the only considerable effort that I'm putting in, and that's pretty minimal. A little bit faster, check this out. Now we can really see that the hand's flopping around and getting whipped. That flopping. So here's our 3-note sequence. This is a 3-note Moeller sequence. And I want you to practice just this a whole bunch. Make sure you also work on your opposite hand. Do that really slow, all the steps we talked about before. It's good to practice both hands together. Once you've done both individually, a little extra challenge for you is like, can you do both hands together without flaming? Our 4-note sequence is adding one more tap. So whip, tap, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're back to 4 beats, but we're actually tapping all 4. 2, 3, 4 in 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a lot harder to keep up at speed with the 4 notes. Make sure you work on the 3-note version a lot first so you really understand it and get it, because that can be a lot more intuitive to get to flow at first. And then from there, you just want to start using this all around the kit. So like whenever you go to play an accent, if you're playing a phrase where the accent's on the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, you can see how I prepped beforehand to play that accent. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1. See how the elbow started to come out like near the end before the accent? No, I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking about a loud note and my elbow's taking care of itself. And that's the point where you want to get to, where wherever you want to throw a note in, you start to go, and then you start to whip it, right? I want to know from you guys, where do you see this being most useful on the drums? Do you see it like helping you with your rudiments? Do you see it helping you with speed, with your grooves? Let me know down below. The next sequence I want to show you guys, 6 notes long, but we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to just fill in with the opposite hand. So you're going to do this 3-note sequence, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right, 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 right. We're going to turn that into singles and just tap the left hand, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. And then I'm going to have one more version that I'm going to show you after this. So if I just move my left hand to do another drum, you can see the Moeller technique is still happening, that 3-note Moeller sequence with my right hand. And I'm just doing wrist taps with the opposite hand. And this is how you're going to get really fast playing all over the kit. Singles, other rudiments. It helps a ton getting accents to come out of other rudiments. So now, before I give you this next variation, you want to make sure that you're practicing this technique with both hands all over the drums in so many different scenarios. So anytime I'm going to play a groove and I'm playing backbeats on the snare, I'm doing this, even just a little bit. Even just a little bit, you can whip your stick so high and so strong with almost no effort. I don't want to hit the mic, but you can crack rim shots crazy strong, and you can just do it all night long because you're not playing down into the drum and you're being really relaxed about it. So you want to make sure that you're exploring how to use this around the kit. Play like your crashes, your tom accents this way as well. So this next sequence, we're going to take the 6-note sequence like before, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But we're going to start kind of trading accents back and forth. It looks like this. Check this out. So what's going on here is I'm playing the Moeller whip 3-note sequence with both hands, but at different times. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. I don't like counting it in 1 and 2 and 3 and. I'd rather count it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But the Moeller whip and the accent happens in different places. So the important thing to keep in mind is that when I'm playing 1, 1, 1, now I'm going to flip to the right hand on my leg and my left hand on the pad. 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's happening is on 4, that's when my left hand accents, which means it's coming out with the left hand taps before that, which are on 6 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lifting, 4, 5, 6, 1, like that. So you're doing the Moeller sequence with different limbs at different times. It's going to be a segue for you to be able to play these accents all over the place, no matter where you are. If you're playing accent phrases in 16th notes, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a E and a E and a E and a, that sort of thing, well, you can start to get that Moeller lift happening with all those different sequences. 1E. So you'll actually see if you watch, and I'm going to minimize this. I minimize this all the time. Watch my wrist. How accents with my right and left hand, they start with like this little bit of lifting. So So that's going on all the time. It makes it really fluid no matter what you're doing all around the drums. Don't forget, you need to make sure that your grip is correct first and you're not having any mistakes there, because then if grip isn't right, then the sticks are not going to be in control. They're going to flop all around and this whole thing's for nothing. So make sure that you go watch my free technique guide. I'll put the link below for you. And the other version of this technique involves fingers, not wrists. So you can see I'm using my fingers behind instead of all wrist strokes. Everything I'm showing you here gets 10 times easier when someone's watching your hands and catching what you can't see yourself. That's exactly what my Zoom workshops are for. So if you're early enough, there's still a seat open. So grab it below before you miss the class.
Did you know 90% of drummers struggle to nail clean, fast fills because their left hand just can't keep up? The other 10%? They're lefties. I've helped over 10,000 drummers fix their weak hand with a single exercise that delivers huge improvements in control, power, and speed. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you the easiest, most reliable drill to stop your weak hand from feeling like a wet noodle so you can play faster and stronger in just 5 minutes a day. Now we're going to break down this exercise really quickly, measure by measure, and then you're going to play it right along with me. So I've put timestamps below where you can skip to the play alongs at different tempos. Let's keep moving and break this down. By the way, I'm a righty, so I'm going to explain this right-handed. For you lefties out there, just flip everything I'm saying and do the exact opposite. We're going to start with one measure of your stronger hand, right hand for me, and we're going to play eighth notes. We're going to play those full height. The important thing is that we want that stick fully vertical. One thing that you can do to measure this and get it consistent is, and the thing is, you want to start fully vertical and you don't want to wind up beforehand. So you're here, you go down only, like that. A great exercise to really get this consistent is to put your other stick behind, back it off about an inch, and then you want to hit the drum, have it bounce back up to that height without clicking. So you don't want this, but instead they stay about an inch apart. It bounces right back up to that. The stick starts at a fully vertical position. You go down only, and after it rebounds, it comes right back up to that fully vertical position, stops there. You want to practice that with both hands, by the way. That's super crucial. For actually doing this exercise, you do not want one stick behind the other because we're going to be playing both hands. So one measure eighth notes with the right hand. That's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and followed by 3 measures of eighth notes with the left hand. So that right hand becomes a gauge. You want to make sure that of course is completely consistent, completely even in timing, and you use that as like your reference point and see like, okay, is my weaker hand standing up to that and like being as consistent. So after that one measure with the right hand, we do 1, 2, 3. Yeah, before you say, all right, Dimitri, is all you're going to teach me just like 8 with the right and 8 with the left? Like, come on, I promise this is going somewhere and it's going to pay off for you. By the way, notation for this exercise is free. If you want the whole thing on one page so you can just print it out, I'll put the link below for you. So first 4 measures is a bunch of rebound strokes. What are our next 4 measures? Guess what? It's a bunch of eighth note rebound strokes. We're going to switch this up though. Instead of playing this full height vertical position, we're going to move to, let's call it a half height, 45-degree angle. If this is 0-ish and this is 90, then we're going to go right in between. So the important thing about this, when you are playing really slow with a lot of pause in between each stroke, you want those back fingers closed so the stick is against your palm. And it's good to practice that way. But when you're going a little bit faster, like we will soon enough, then you can loosen up, keep those fingers open a little bit. The back fingers stay in contact with it at all times, but the stick is not against the back of your palm. And that means that you can kind of get the rebound a little bit more loose and it feels really good that way. These second 4 measures are same thing, 1 measure with the right hand, 3 measures with the left hand. However, to really dial in your weaker hand though and get it, up to speed, we want to use basically the idea from this stick leveling technique. But when you are playing both hands, you can't do that. So what you have to do instead is imagine that I'm in the room with you and I've got my stick right above both of yours and you're doing this without clicking my stick that's hovering right above. Now, the trick to doing this on your own, you can use a mirror, which is helpful, but what I do is I just bring my sticks both up, and you can see they're right here next to each other, an inch away or so, and they're both at the exact same height, and I'm not allowed to go up, so no pre-winding like this, just down only. So you want to trace that a bunch of times really slow. So here's the right a bunch of times, left a bunch of times, right? Now, when you do it fast, make sure you don't go back to that old habit of, oh, I'm going to lift up after every stroke. Like that. So imagine that I'm here holding another stick right behind yours. You can go down only, back up to that height. You want to make sure that both your right and left hands start there, go down only, go back up and stop exactly there. So that's what you have to keep in mind for this exercise. So the half height, one measure of eighth notes with the right hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, left hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 more measures, 2, 3, 4, last measure, third measure with the left hand, that's the fourth measure. And that's the exercise so far, 8 measures in. Now we're going to do the exact same thing. Don't worry, we are mixing it up in a moment here. We're going to do the exact same thing, but I want you to do tap strokes. So you can start this, 3 inches off the drum, and that's your new reference point. But eventually I want you to get even lower, and your tap strokes are way down here. But you want to be an inch off of the drum and do the same thing. You're not going to get any rebound here. So when you do the exercise down here, I mean, you are getting a little bit of rebound, but don't worry about that. It's tap strokes where you pretty much just can keep the stick against the back of the palm the whole time. Don't worry about like if your sticks aren't the exact same weight, you'll hear a pitch difference. So listen to this. No, they're actually pretty close. But if your sticks sound different from each other because maybe one weighs a couple grams more or less, you need to ignore that and just pay attention to the volume. So as you get faster, at slower speeds, you can just look at the stick height, right? But as you get faster, your sticks are always moving. It's harder to do that, although this applies more to singles, right? But for the right hand rebounds or the left hand rebounds, you do have the other stick there as reference, but you still want to really pay attention and listen to make sure that the volume is the same between both your hands. And this is why we're still doing the right hand for 1 measure out of every 4, because you need that reference point and you need to make sure that like your technique is the same between both hands. The velocity is the same. So if your right hand is coming down at a certain speed, you want that to be pretty snappy down. Make sure the left hand is also the same. It's not a whole bunch of like kind of, oh, I'm just going to let it fall, let gravity do the work. Give it a little power, make sure both hands are doing that. Now up to this point, this is going to get your weaker hand up to snuff and measuring it so that it's consistent. But now we got to be comfortable with that weaker hand actually leading the way. And that's where the next section of this exercise comes in. And this is one of Joe Morello's stone killer exercises. You can do this at different stick heights. The basic idea here is that as you play this stuff faster, the stick heights get lower. Even when we do the full height thing later together and we do the whole exercise all together, as we push to faster tempos, we're probably going to even bring that down a little bit and then do different stick heights, and the gradations are within like a lower stick height range. So the stone killer exercise looks like this. 1 measure of eighth notes with your right hand, 3, 4, then 16th notes leading with the opposite hand. So this is left, right, and then your opposite hand, so in this case the left hand, 1 measure eighth notes, then right, left with your leading hand after that. Let's read that one more time. Right, and 2, and 3, and 4, and left, right. 3, and 4, and left rebounds. 2, and 3, and 4, and right, left. 3, and 4, and you loop it. So we're going to do this for 4 measures. Left, right. Left hand, left, 2, 3, and 4, and right, left. Let's get on to the play along. So I want you guys to do it along with me. You can choose from different tempos down below. I want you guys to leave a comment and log your practice with the date and the tempo you're practicing at. The important thing is to do it along with me. Make sure your timing is really consistent. Make sure your strokes, stroke heights, the volume of every stroke is very consistent, and stay incredibly relaxed through everything. So if you are practicing at one of the slower tempos, you try a faster one and you tense up, don't do it at that tempo. Make sure you back up to the slower one and do it for even more time and stay super relaxed. Even if you can play fast, do it slow, do it relaxed, do it over and over again, and it pays off so much, and your weaker hand is going to thank you. Don't forget the notation's free. Link is below for you to grab it.
If you're the type who learns faster with real feedback, don't just watch me and practice on your own, come play with me. My next live technique workshop is coming up on Zoom, and seats go fast. Sign up now so you don't miss it. Links below. Do you ever feel like all the effort you put into learning the drums will never pay off? The thing is, you could be right. The way you practice matters, because if you're practicing the wrong stuff, all the time you put in goes to waste. So how do you fix that? I've helped hundreds of drummers level up their playing and even go pro by showing them this one technique that drastically speeds up their progress. In this video, I'm going to show you what this technique is, the tricks pro drummers use to make it sound amazing on the drums, and I'll give you my simple 6-step process to master it so you can actually play what you hear in your head. To start, let me show you the technique in action. So have you spotted the technique yet? You can use it for so much, it's kind of insane. It gets you greater endurance with one hand, with a lot of repeated notes. It gets you faster, cleaner rolls, double stroke rolls, and it makes so many other patterns and rudiments easier and cleaner, pretty much on autopilot. So let's break down what this technique is and how you can use it to completely transform your rudiments and how you apply them on the kit. Get everything so much faster and cleaner. It's something that didn't have a name when I was taught it by my teacher, and it's not the same thing as push-pull. This was something that you've probably heard of, push-pull. A lot of people see my technique and come to me and asking, hey, can you teach me push-pull? And I say, no. I can't teach you push-pull. I can't play it. I don't find it very effective anytime that I've tried to use it, so it's not push-pull. Eventually, with the popularity of push-pull online, I realized, what I'm doing is not really a push and a pull. It's more of an open with the fingers and a close. It seems like a lot of other people in the world have kind of settled on the same name, but it's really rare to see it taught right and even played correctly. So I'm going to break this down for you. Now, the advantage of open-close technique is that you actually get to use two different movements and really muscle groups to move the stick. And when you do that, it means that you can play more efficiently. It means you can play faster in sequence. And it means that you can get everything more even because, well, I'm going to show you what this does to like your stick height. It's actually kind of fantastic. We're going to start with just breaking down what it looks like. And then I'm going to give you the steps to feel it yourself. So nice and slow, it looks a little something like this. The other amazing thing about open-close technique is I would actually call it the cure for, and I'm sorry if there's any watching, the cure for what I call the high school band teacher double stroke technique. Because if you learn drums in middle school or high school, you're typically learning to play double strokes with an adapted buzz stroke technique. If you play a buzz roll, which is all about back finger pressure, so it like starts to bounce really fast, you let off that pressure, so it starts to dribble slower, and then you just stop it after 2. That's the high school band teacher double stroke roll technique. The problem is that the second stroke doesn't bounce very high. So you get da-da, da-da, you get this. Right? It's not very pretty, has a lot of limitations because it's not even, it doesn't have clarity and attention to detail on every single note. On a snare drum, the two side by side, here's our high school technique. And here's our open close technique, right? Nice and even and crisp. So you get really crisp doubles. And it's so useful, not just for on the hi-hat or on the snare, but also any rudiment that has doubles. Paradiddles have doubles in them. Doubles right there. Right, left, left, right, left. And so if you do it for all of your rudiments, you get extremely even, clear paradiddles, paradiddle diddles, Swiss Army triplets. We're going to show you how to do this step by step. We're going to do this really fast. Check it out. I want you to hold the stick in the air. I want you to actually, I like doing this, dropping your elbow so that you're kind of in this T-Rex position. Back fingers should all be on the stick, and you should see this gap as well between the thumb and first finger. So all the back fingers on. It's against the hypothenar in the middle of that. And then we're going to first actually take our fingers off, back fingers, I should say. So you have index and thumb on the stick. Next, with another stick, lift up this end. You're not allowed to move your hand. You're not allowed to move your fingers, your wrist, your arm. Only the stick pivots at the fulcrum. So it kind of seesaws. You lift it up and it falls back down, right? That's step 1, the back fingers off. Step 2, put the back fingers back on, like I said in the beginning. So then the back fingers are on. And what you do is you make sure that your hand doesn't move, your wrist doesn't move, your arm doesn't move. The only things that move are the stick, which pivots at the fulcrum, and your back fingers. The back fingers specifically move with the stick, and they get opened by the stick. That's the key thing, so that you're not actually flinging them out, but they're getting pushed open while the stick goes up on the other end. This is why a big thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to do this with only one hand. This stage of practice is 2 hands, 2 sticks. So make sure it's always with both sticks, both hands. If you do it with one hand, a lot of people try to do this, but it's not the same thing. Trying to push it open with your fingers, it's an entirely different mechanic and movement to try to do that, which isn't happening on the drums. So we have to push it up over here, and when that goes up, it goes down on the other side of the fulcrum. It goes down over here, and that's going to push your fingers open. So I really recommend you do it with another stick, like so. So do it really slow. The really key thing is that you don't let any of this move. Your wrist doesn't move, your hand, your arm, it stays completely still. All that moves, stick and your back fingers. So if you can do that slow, I then want you to hold it here. Kind of looks like that, like, like a sock puppet, and you should be able to hold it with your fingertips, like so. And then you close your fingers back to the first position. You can close them slow, you can close them fast, but we have this, hold it, and then close it back. Make sure you close back to a relaxed position. That means you're always going to be coming back to this to practice. So step 3 looks like this. Now Now, what am I doing? I'm doing step 2, but I'm knocking it up fast. What's going to happen is the stick gets knocked up. On the other side, it goes down, pushes your fingers open with some actual force. And the first thing that's going to happen if you've never tried this before is your wrist is going to go back. Even if you let your fingers open a little, they're not going to open enough. They're going to be too slow opening. Your instinct is going to be to have your hand go back with a stick, like this. Even a little bit right there is too much. What I want you to try to master is getting it to stay completely still. And of course, you got to do the other hand as well. By the way, if you're having trouble mastering this, then the first step is actually mastering your grip and getting that truly right, making sure you're not making any mistakes. I have a free technique fundamentals course that you need to check out and go through. I'll put the link down below for you. So we're doing it fast, and I want you to hold it, then I want you to close it. And when you close it, make sure that you do not squeeze and clench up and get tense, because then you're going to do it on every stroke and you're going to wreck your hands really fast, and you might even be able to do the technique, but you're going to have so much tension as you play your doubles. It's just going to be really rough on you for playing just 10 minutes. So we can't have that. You need to have like a lot of relaxation to be able to play with endurance and be able to endure a 1-2 hour set, right? If you have the core mechanics like we just broke down, well, you need to apply it to the kit. But how do you do that? Let me show you. It looks something like this. Now, what's happening? Instead of knocking the stick up in the air, I'm coming down with either a wrist stroke or some sort of Moeller stroke or somewhere in between or some combination. And then as I strike the drum, it bounces up, and in the back of the hand, it goes down. It pushes my back fingers open. A really key thing is that your wrist drops. You want to make sure that you don't go down, hit it, open the fingers, and have your wrist go back up like that. No wrist going up. It's got to go down, dropping, and then it's got to hold there. Now, if you open it a ton, your pinky does not reach a stick, and that's okay. But if you go smaller, your pinky stays on the stick, and you're good with that, right? I would recommend when you can keep the pinky on, you use it. But it's not like 100% required to get a good grade here. So you've applied it to the drums, but how do you actually do like a proper double stroke roll with it or apply it to your rudiments? Well, it's going to look something like this. We're going to take that action on the drum and make sure that it's super even in terms of stick heights. When you come down, the stick bounces back up to the height that it was originally. So I'm going to come down and the stick is going to come right back up to this point. And I'm in position 2 with my fingers open. I close my fingers. I'm going to come back up to that point again. I'm using my stick heights as a measurement to make sure both strokes are even. Do that with your right hand and then your left hand for playing double strokes, which means right, open, closed, left, open, closed. With all of that in mind, you want to make sure your stick heights always come down and back up that exact same height. And then you can keep the other stick there so you have a frame of reference. I call this my stick leveling exercises. It works wonders for my students. It's really fantastic. All this together means once you have your stick leveling practice together, you're playing extremely even double strokes. The other important thing to remember is that tempo, it doesn't matter. I don't want you to worry about tempo at all. I don't want you to get this fast. I want you to get this even, and I want you to get it perfect. So don't just think about how do I get this roll to sound fast like a roll. Think about, is this as clear as possible? Every single stroke, every single one completely even in terms of stick height and velocity and volume. So really listen to volume, really listen and watch for your stick heights. I'd honestly recommend quarter notes at 40 or 50 BPM. And the reason for that is you need enough time to make sure every single stroke has all the parameters that we talked about. Every single one has the volume that we need, the height we need, the motions. You need to make sure that your technique has all the other steps in place. So how do you actually get this into your music? Well, the first thing is keep doing that step. Don't move forward until it's completely perfect. And what do you do when it's perfect? Guess what? Don't go faster. I want you to repeat it. The key thing is repetition, because repetition becomes muscle memory. It becomes something that's encoded into your brain, and only once it's encoded into your brain can you repeat it on autopilot. And you need it on autopilot or you're not going to be able to do it fast correctly, and those mistakes are going to keep creeping in because you jumped ahead and tried to do it too fast. And I do not want you going fast. It's so crucial. So how do you know when you do bump up the tempo? Well, you're allowed to speed it up when it's perfect and it's automatic. You have to have both those things in place. If you sit down and you go to practice this for the 5th time and you're like, oh, I can do this just smoothly, naturally, evenly, then BPM can go up just a little bit. If you were at 50 quarter notes, go to 60. If you were at 60, try 65, 70. Eventually, you're going to get to 100 BPM quarters. And the thing is, 100 BPM quarters is the same as 50 BPM eighth notes. So, you could put it at 50, you could put your metronome at 50 BPM, turn on the eighth notes, and play along with it. And then, let's say you're 50 BPM eighth notes, and you gradually rise it all the way up to 100 eighth notes, which is the same thing as 50 16th notes. Then you just gradually get that faster and faster until you're at 16th notes at 100, 16th notes at 120. That's where it starts to sound like, oh, I got the doubles. I'm doing doubles cleaner than ever before, and we're in fantastic shape. That's truly what you're looking for. Now, there's so much you can do with this. Like I said, this is going to transform your other rudiments as well. You should be doing it during your paradiddles. You see that open, closed? Open, closed, left, right, open, closed, right, left, open, closed, open, closed. You should do it during your paradiddle diddles. Right, left, open, closed, right, left, open, closed, open, closed. You should do it during your Swiss Army triplets as a variation, not the main Swiss Army triplet. If you're doing Swiss Army triplets with accents, I don't really do it open, closed, but it's really pretty spicy to do it this way, which is open, closed, and then the same thing in a slightly different displacement with the left hand. So I really like doing Swiss Army triplets in unison. So not a flam, but together with the open close technique, as you can see. Right hand's open, close, and the left hand is, it's hard to say, open, close, if you look at the left. Open, close.
Now, if you work through these techniques the way I laid them out a little each day, your hands are going to feel completely different. And if you want my eyes on your technique specifically, so you know for sure you're doing it right and not drilling in something you'll have to unlearn later, well, come join me in my next Zoom workshop. I'll watch what you're doing, give you feedback in real time, and help you clean it up. The link to join me is right below. I'd love to see you there.